A Minot man charged with murder in the 2020 death of his roommate is accusing state prosecutors of mishandling evidence in a separate charge in the case. Shawnee Krall faces charges of murder and gross sexual imposition in the death of Alice Carollo. After the courts tossed out the vehicle that the victim's body was found in as evidence, the state moved to dismiss the GSI charge. But Krall wants the charge dismissed with prejudice. That means prosecutors could not reconsider the charge in the future. At a status conference today, it was revealed that Krall accused prosecutors of trickery in disclosing evidence, as well as mistreating his family and manipulating witnesses. When pressed for specifics, though, Krall's attorney, Brianna DeLorme, indicated it wasn't one issue with the state's handling of the case, but multiple things.
These things add up to be a larger thing, so I can't just on a whim say it's this one particular incident or this other particular incident that we're going to be discussing. It's a group of small things.
Now, Judge Stacey Lauser instructed prosecutors to decide whether to appoint a special prosecutor to handle an evidentiary hearing later this month by midday today.
If there is going to be outside counsel or a special prosecutor, it would seem that decision needs to be made relatively quickly. Quite honestly, the court is not interested in putting the state, the integrity of this case, or the integrity of the court in question.
Now, late this afternoon, Deputy State's Attorney Tiffany Sorgan told your news leader the state would not be appointing a special prosecutor. We are working to learn more about their decision. The hearing on the GSI charge evidence is July 25th. The trial for the murder charge is set for late September.